I'm so grateful that I get to be up here talking to you because I think it is so important in what we are doing. We're diving into the book of John. We're really doing a Bible study, and I love that. So, in the spirit of that, I want to invite up Miss Aiden because she is going to read, yes, she is going to be reading from the verses that we're going to be studying tonight.
Okay. This is John 10, 1 through 18, and it says, "Very truly I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him, because they do not recognize the stranger's voice." Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. Therefore Jesus said again, "Very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief only comes to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming and abandons the sheep and runs away, then the wolf attacks the flock and it scatters. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life, only to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down, and authority to take it up again. This command I received from my Father."
Now you can take a seat. Okay, so last week, you were not here, it's okay. Ben introduced to us this new method of Bible study. So I'm going to reintroduce it. It is called the 7 Arrows of Bible Reading, and I love it. I think it is a great tool to have, and if you don't have one of these handy-dandy handouts, I highly encourage you to go grab one before you leave here tonight. So I like it so much, I want to use the first question to start us off tonight. So what does this passage say? Aiden just read it to us, so we're all, kind of on the same page with that. We heard the story at least. So what does this passage say? Well, when we break it down, we can see that there are these 3 main characters, these 3 main symbols. There are the sheep, the shepherd, and these thieves, robbers, hired hands. That's all going to be one for tonight. So Jesus, in this story, puts specific traits and characteristics to each of these symbols. Starting off, we're going to be looking at the thieves, the robbers, and the hired hands. So, they are clearly the antagonist of the story. They're the bad guys. They intend to do harm to the sheep. Verse 10 says they seek to destroy and kill. And later in verse 12, it says that these false shepherds will abandon the sheep. We can see that this symbol, this character, only wants to do harm to the sheep. So who does that represent? Or what? It's not a trick question. In this day and age, who does it represent? Who do you think? Because I think it's Satan. I think it is sin, it is evil, it is temptation. It is everything from Satan himself all the way to the worldly view that tells you, no, you choose yourself. You choose your own happiness over what Jesus tells you to do. Okay, now that we understand that, we are going to be moving on to the shepherd. So the shepherd is this hero of the story. He is this protagonist. In verse 10, it says that it finishes by contrasting the good shepherd from these thieves and these robbers. And he is seen as the rescuer of the sheep, and that is important. So he can also be seen as the protector of the sheep, who never abandons his flock, like the hired hands. And most importantly, he is the gate for the sheep. Verse 9 makes that very clear. So who does that represent? Jesus, that's good. I mean, he wanted to make that so clear, he even says it. He says, I am the good shepherd. He says it over and over again to emphasize that. Lastly, we have the sheep. And just in general, stepping back from this story, when you think of sheep, what comes to mind? Because personally, I think of maybe not the brightest animal in the world. They're kind of these fluffy little dudes just prancing in their fields, munching on the grass. Kind of helpless in a sense, right? So with all that in mind, going back to these verses, we can also see that Jesus presents them as impressionable. Because yes, they listen to the good shepherd's voice, but they also listen to the false shepherd's voices. We can also see that without a real leader or someone to guide them, they are prone to wander. They are wanderers. It's in their nature. So who does that remind you of? When you think of the sheep, who comes to mind?
Us.
Very good. It is us. We are the sheep. So when we read this story and understand just a bit more about it, we can see that this is telling us about man, about us. This story is defining our basic human characteristics to us, for us. And I think it's made very clear that sheep are impressionable and that they tend to wander. And that as sheep, we are so easily led astray in this world by the thieves and the robbers, the sin, the evil, the temptation of this world. Because when you're presented with an earthly way that is so seemingly shiny and bright, and it says, you don't have to defy your own basic human instinct of being selfish. You can be selfish. You can choose your own happiness, because the way that Jesus calls us to live is so countercultural. It is so against what the world wants us to do. Because he calls us to defy our basic sinful human nature. He says, don't live for yourself, because that's going to lead you to destruction. So, depending on where you are in your faith, in your life, that can become kind of a scary realization, understanding the characteristics of the sheep and of us. Because for me, if that fear, that understanding, it becomes very real in just a simple statistic. And it is that 66% of college students walk away from their faith. And if you don't know anything about me, the one thing you're going to learn about me tonight is that I am in the 12th grade. And that means, this is Debbie Downer moment, and that means in just a few short months, I'm going to be starting an exciting new chapter of my life where I go off to college. I'm excited for it. I'm not going to stand up here and be like, oh, I don't want to go. I like my home. I mean, I do. That's true. But I am so excited for it. It's going to be fun. I'm going to meet so many new people. It's exciting. It's an adventure. It's new. But I also know that for all of my life, I have been so blessed to be sheltered and just in the mix with an incredibly strong group of people who believe in Jesus, who believe in these verses, in this Bible, and everything. I have been so blessed with that. And it has helped me to become the confident Christian that I am today. It's helped me grow in my faith, and I am so incredibly grateful. And I also know that when I'm in a new place, there are going to be people there who believe their own version of the truth just as wholeheartedly as I believe mine. And that's where the world and its impressions come in. Because I am confident in my faith. I know that. But I know the world can get so very loud in what it wants you to believe. And that is terrifying. And that's when I know, that's when I remember that I am prone to wander because it is in my nature. See, Debbie Downer moment. And the only reassurance that I get from all of that fear is the nature of my good shepherd. Because it is not in his nature to abandon us. No matter how physically separated I am from where I am just surrounded by Jesus lovers, I know that I am not abandoned by my Good Shepherd. No matter how physically or spiritually or mentally separated we are never wandering alone. Jesus, our Good Shepherd, is right there with us. He is calling us by name. It is just on us to listen. And that's hard. It's not easy to listen, because when the world starts to consume you, we just need Jesus to consume us a little bit more. So, Psalm 23, it's a very famous psalm. I guarantee a lot of you know it. So Psalm 23:4, it says, "Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me." So even when we stray, when we decide, nah, I'm going to choose my own path for this one, when we don't follow what Jesus tells us how we should live, we are not walking alone, because he's right there with us. He's calling us by name. He's chasing after us. He is nothing like these hired hands or these thieves and these robbers. Through him, we are chased after and we are found, because we are never too far gone for Jesus. We are never too far gone for our Good Shepherd. He is after our hearts. And when we reorient our lives, we can be centered around him. We are not only given a satisfying and rich life, we are also given an eternal one. And that's what he means when he says, "I am the gate for the sheep." Because he has this desire that's in his nature to provide for us, to protect us, and to give us that direct connection to not only the Good Shepherd, but to our good Father. It's in his nature. He desires to bring us closer to him. There's another fun little verse. It's in the Old Testament, actually. It's Isaiah 53:6. And it says, "All of us, like sheep, have strayed away. We left God's paths to follow our own, yet the Lord laid on him the sins of us all." If that's not the truest form of love, I don't know what is. Because even way before this story, the Good Shepherd, even way before Jesus was even born, we are told about his nature. We are told that he's not going to leave us. Even when we feel so alone, even when we have wandered so far, he is not going to abandon us, because that's not who he is. He loves his sheep so much, so deeply, that he laid down his life for us, so that through him we could be rescued and protected. He chooses us time and time again, even when we try to walk away from him. Even when we decide, I can do this on my own. Even when we decide to be selfish, he chooses us. He doesn't abandon us, because that's not who he is. So, throughout this whole series, we are exploring how the disciple John presents who Jesus is. So, based on this passage, what does it say about who he is? We can see exactly what's in his nature. We can see that he is our rescuer. He is our protector. We can see that he truly desires us. He desires to care for us and to provide for us. That's who he is. And we can see that he truly loves us. And that is so, so important. Okay. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to pray over us. So please, bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you so much for allowing us to come together and to dive in and study your word. I thank you so much for our Good Shepherd and for everything that is in his nature. I ask that you are always with us when we start to wander, and that you draw us back, no matter how far gone we think we are. I ask that you help us see that you are constantly after our hearts, and I pray that you let everybody in this room know that as far as they stray, they are never alone. They are never too separated from you. I ask that you keep everyone's minds hungry for more of you and your teachings, and I pray these things in your name. Amen.